Alright, everyone, welcome to episode number 44 of Everyday Thoughts. Now, let's get straight into it. So, let's start off with being more responsive instead of just reacting to things. So, what I mean by that is basically when you have a situation, or I think the best way to describe it is when you are in an argument with anybody. Being responsive means that you actually evaluate the other side and the whole thing in general before you take any action. While just reacting is you just get an impulse, or especially when it comes to talking, you're just waiting for the other person to finish. Not that you can understand it, but so that you can just say your thing and that you can react. Benefits of that being, obviously, you get a more clear, how can I say it? A more clear picture of the situation. You're more aware of the situation, and you will probably be a lot better when it comes to problem solving overall when you use that strategy. And then, what I think is very interesting but quite true is that everybody is dependent on somebody to some degree. So, what I mean by that is no matter who you are, you will probably somehow be dependent towards somebody. So, for example, a child is dependent on a parent. Somebody in business is dependent on a business partner, or a manufacturer, or whatever. The part being that you can't just stop being dependent on somebody, because that's how relationships work. But the thing you should strive for is that you choose wisely and actually think about who you are letting yourself be dependent on, so that you can actually have healthy relationships, first of all, and second of all, not be used for whatever it may be. Then, what I think is a very interesting thing as well is that life is what we deem it to be. And in that case, if you think that life is a shithole and life is bad, you're probably gonna have a bad life and it's gonna be probably a big shithole. But if you think life is great and life is good, you'll look more towards those aspects of life and actually live a fulfilled life. And then we can straight move on to the so-called 5F pillars, which would be faith, family, fitness, finances, and fulfillment. Those all are in conjunction or just interconnected to each other, because if you only have one of them, like a lot of people think that, well, if you just have good finances, then you have a good life. I mean, by that would mean that Elon Musk has the best life on earth, which he probably doesn't, because he works extreme shifts, whatever, and most probably doesn't have the best family life from what I've seen, but I'm not here to judge. What I'm trying to say is that what you're trying to do, or what you should strive to do, is that you're basically maxed out on all of those five things. Because when you do that, you actually live a perfect life. When you have those five things maxed out, you're fulfilled with your own self, fulfilled with your own work, you have good finances, probably financially independent. That's why I think of good finances. Doesn't have to be billions or millions, just financially independent. You have a great family, so that you can actually share what you are achieving with somebody else that you love, and you can have kids and pass on a legacy. Fitness is very connected with mental health and just your own confidence and how you look, and you have to be very self-disciplined to have a good fitness. And then faithfulness is, I think, a sort of, I'm not 100% sure about that one, because you don't have to be somebody who believes in God without having all those other things and living a fulfilled life. But I'm not gonna go into the whole debate of if you should believe in a deity or just a God or universal whatever being, but just faith, meaning that you actually believe in something, no matter what it is, but that you believe in something, most obviously preferably that is positive. And those, when you don't achieve those 5 things and you don't let anything out, you have a extremely good life. So that's what we should all strive for, at least in my opinion. And then the last couple of things would be that wisdom is basically just accumulated knowledge over time, and just because you have a certain condition that you can do something now, or opportunity that can do something now, doesn't mean that just because you have it only now and you didn't have it 10 years ago, that it's something bad. To be honest, my personal opinion, I think we get things in life once we are ready for it. And that's just the whole process of life, that we gain experience and knowledge the more more knowledge through experiences, obviously by doing things. And that way we always just evolve and develop more and more and more. You can't just start out with all at once and think that that's how you're gonna be. No, everybody's gonna start somewhere, but it doesn't matter where you start, but where you want to go. And then something extremely important, which I should probably mention at the start of the video because I think it's that important, is the worst promises to break are not to somebody else, but to yourself. Because when you break promises to yourself, first of all, you don't respect yourself, probably low self-esteem, you don't fully believe in yourself, and the likelihood of that transferring to breaking other promises is quite big. So if you give a promise to yourself to do something, then make 100% sure that you're actually gonna do it, or don't set the promise. So it's either you set the promise and you do it, actually do it, or you don't set the promise and you don't do it. And the last things are that the first step is the most hardest step to take, and being anxious or anxiety is just the fear of future pain. So how are those two connected? Obviously, if you had a bad experience with something, for example, relationships, you had bad experiences with those, and you don't want to get into a new one because you're scared that you're being hurt, that's anxiety. But what you have to do is take that first step, which is always going to be really hard because you basically just move to ground zero again, and you're like, no, it's just full of negative beliefs. If you had a bad relationship in the past and you had, for example, a bad ending or whatever, what I'm trying to say is that taking that first step is going to be the most difficult and probably the most important thing towards something great. Because once you get that first step in, you're having momentum and you're just going to be getting faster and faster. And you're just going to keep moving, and getting you to stop is going to be so much more difficult when you're moving than when you're already standing. So that is basically it today. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you around.